Hello everybody, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And please bear with me because I'm going to do something a little different here because unlike a lot of my previous videos, this one isn't scripted. So you're going to hear me stutter a lot. You're going to hear me say some dumb things. You're going to basically hear me this is what I sound like when I actually don't get a chance to edit the audio to my videos. And because of that, please bear with me because the reason I'm doing this is because I want to try something different when it comes to reacting to a new show or a new movie. And last night, I had my calendar marked. I had everything in place to watch The Last of Us premiere on HBO. Now, it's been a while since I've been this excited for a TV show, and let alone a TV show based on a video game. Because if you've been playing video games and watching video game adaptations for any length of time, you know they tend to suck. Now, lately that has changed thanks to shows like Arcane and Castlevania, but those are animated shows. This one is live action. And, it's one thing for a movie like Sonic to be successful, but this one, this is The Last of Us. It's one of the most well-known games of the past decade, and it's a very dark but very dramatic game. It's a game that could have easily just been another Resident Evil ripoff, but it became something so much more. And, talk to anyone who's played it, they'll say it's an emotionally gripping experience, both for the first game and the second game. So to make a TV show based around that, I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner. But again, you've got a bad track record when it comes to video game adaptations. So even though I was encouraged by how well other video game adaptations have been lately, I was still kind of nervous about this one. But I do feel like casting Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones, I think that was a good move. I didn't know who could possibly play Joel, given how well Troy Baker did with the games as a voice actor. But if you've seen The Mandalorian, you know why Pedro Pascal is perfect for this role. And Bella Ramsey, I'm not the biggest Game of Thrones fan, but I do know that she is a good actress, and she definitely, can carry herself better than most. So the casting, I think, was spot on, but, casting alone is not going to make the show great. So you need to get, it's hard to make it work when, video game adaptations have such a bad reputation. And The Last of Us as a game is already a very well done in terms of cinema, in terms of a story, in terms of cut scenes. It feels like a movie in and of itself. And now this is a show, so it can tell the full breadth of the story. So I guess going into it, I kind of wasn't sure what form it would take or how it would measure up to the game. But you know what? After watching this first episode, I'm sold. I'm hooked. I think this might go down as one of the better video game adaptations ever made. And hopefully it raises the bar for others because, if one success is going to lead to another. Now, I don't know if there are a lot of other studios watching to see how successful, how well received this show is. But I can tell you after this first episode, I was very, very encouraged. For one, it didn't start exactly like the game. If you played the game, you know how it starts. You know why that beginning is considered one of the best beginnings to a video game of all time. The start of this show, in terms of setting up who Joel is, sets up, what his life is like, we introduce his brother Tommy, who plays a big role in the games later on, and of course his daughter Sarah, which, it gets dark real fast. But one of the things this show did early on that I really liked is it took more time to show, the kind of life Joel has. It shows us, how important his daughter is to him. It also kind of shows that Joel he's not exactly the hero type. He doesn't show the kind of, pure altruism you would expect a future hero of the story to show. He is kind of a mess with this when the show begins. He's kind of aloof. He's forgetful. He's clearly overwhelmed, and he clearly has some issues. There's this brief shot of his truck, which shows, he's a combat veteran, and, he's still probably struggling with that. He also seems to, he makes promises that he can't always keep. I mean, he promised to bring home a birthday cake, and he couldn't do that, and he was home late, despite promising his daughter that he'd be home in time to celebrate. But that, it shows he's very human. He's a very flawed individual overall, and that's important. I mean, that's a critical part of his character in the game because, spoiler alert, both for people who've played the game and people who've seen the episode, it gets really dark and really sad real fast because once the apocalypse comes, and that's actually another thing about this show, when it does come, it doesn't play out like The Walking Dead, doesn't play out like Resident Evil. It focuses almost entirely on Joel, Tommy, and Sarah. You never really see the fungus-fueled monsters. You never really see, the zombie hordes. You just see the world collapsing around Joel, and you see the world collapse around everyone, and it's pretty grim. And that same moment in the moment in the show when he loses his daughter, it hits just as hard as the game. I played the game 100 times. I know that moment. I knew it was coming. And if you've played the game, you knew it was coming. The fact that it still had that impact, the fact that the show actually did kind of build up to it, that was an accomplishment. That was really something. Because, unlike the game, the show, it showed that, Sarah, she's a legitimately good girl. She's someone who keeps Joel, grounded. She really, goes the extra mile for him and for her neighbors. She is as pure a soul as there can be in this world. But then, the world goes to hell and she's among the first casualties. So it sets a really dark and really serious tone, which, again, that is perfect for the spirit of the game. It works beautifully. So when you do flash forward 20 years, you could tell Joel is not over this. No parent would ever be over something like this. And it's kind of left him, he's not exactly the most balanced person. He, in fact, the show kind of highlights his issues a lot more than the game did. When the game flashed forward, it didn't waste too much time before getting into the gameplay, and you kind of just didn't really highlight just how troubled Joel was. But the show goes out of its way to show, he's not in a good place. He hasn't been in a good place for 20 years. The world around him is awful and dark and bleak. You've got, people being executed for breaking simple laws. You've got, dead bodies being burned to help stem the infection. And there's even this one horrible scene with a child who is clearly infected, and you can tell that, it's not going to end well for her. And that just, it hits hard. Some of this stuff, it wasn't in the game, but the fact, it kind of feels more like a supplement to that story. And, it does kind of take a while for us to get to Ellie. In fact, you don't really see her until we're past the halfway point. But that works well because, again, that's very much in keeping with how the game introduced her. But one of the things that I think really sold me was when we first finally see Ellie, and you get to see Bella Ramsey. She definitely has Ellie's attitude. She has her. She's combative. She's hostile. She cusses out people. That is Ellie to the letter. Bella Ramsey just really owned that persona in all the right ways. So that first scene alone with her, I was like, I literally said out loud to my TV, yeah, that's definitely Ellie. So I am, I'm sold. She was probably, I know when Bella Ramsey was originally cast, there was some uncertainty about whether she could pull off the look and the personality of Ellie. But after that first scene, yeah, that casting was perfect. So I am not concerned about that. But then, we see things with Joel and Marlene get into the picture. Plus Tess plays a large role. She's still, Joel's partner in terms of, how they navigate this dark, bleak, post-apocalyptic world. And, how he kind of gets roped into dealing with Ellie. That's that's partially by accident, but it's also partially out of circumstance. This is a like this world is very dark. It's the whole thing. The whole first episode is essentially telling us, the audience, this is a place with very little in terms of hope. There's not a whole lot to look forward to in this world, but suddenly this girl comes along who may very well be the key to, ending some of the darkness. Just like the game, suddenly that tiny little sliver, that's enough to, feel like, this story's worth telling. It's not going to be pure dark misery porn for the whole show. So I am very much intrigued by where it takes, because in addition to just, setting the story up, I got to say the visuals were like literally ripped right from the game. If you played the game, you could definitely recognize some of the level design, everything, even from Sarah's bedroom to Joe's home when he and we go forward 20 years in the future to what happens when Joel and Ellie finally meet. It plays out almost the same as it does in the game. By that I mean it's not a very warm welcome. So there's just so much visually. It looks like the people who made this clearly knew the game. They definitely referenced it. They didn't try to reinvent it. They didn't try to make it sort of like the Resident Evil movies did, where they just took the Resident Evil aesthetics and tweaked it around a bunch of new characters we never knew or cared about. This show is taking the essence of the game and using that as a foundation, but building on top of it stuff that we never got to see in the game, stuff that kind of really improves on the story. Because there are some tweaks. It's established early on that Joel he's trying to reconnect with Tommy, and that's his main drive. He has no desire to, smuggle anyone, or let alone, take some girl under his wing who has an attitude problem, among other things. But that only kind of, and if you've played the game, it shows that both these characters have to go on a bit of an arc. You kind of have to show that these characters have a long way to go before they can actually bond or become anything even resembling, friends or travel companions, or let alone the dynamic we eventually got in the game. Joel is still very much a broken man who is not someone who you would expect to play the hero role. And Ellie she's a teenage girl. She didn't ask for anything that happened to her. And another nice little Easter egg is this episode referenced some of the DLC from the game, specifically the DLC that shows what happened with Ellie and how Ellie got bit. And that's something I think, based on some of the teaser trailers, is going to be referenced later on in the season. Maybe it'll be a flashback in the next episode, for all we know. But it is a really nice nod to the game, and a really nice nod to the overall spirit of the story. And now, plus the way at the first episode ended was it was kind of a cruel cliffhanger, but it really does kind of help. We did see a bit more of the zombie creature monsters later on in the show, but again, they were shown very sparingly. You did not see them. This is not like The Walking Dead, where the zombies are always seem just around the corner. These creatures are there, but more than anything else, Joel and the rest of the cast, they clash more with other people than they do with any of the zombies. It's a world where the people are still trying to survive, but there's still corruption. The Fireflies are not exactly friendly to everyone. There's a lot of stuff that was established, and a lot of stuff that a lot of familiar story elements get established, but they're then built upon. So in terms of a first overall episode, The Last of Us got pretty much everything right. I mean, other than the fact the ending was such a frustrating cliffhanger, was that was the only downside. And I also suspect that some people might not like that. You know, we don't see much of the monsters, we don't see much of the zombies, but I have a feeling that, you know, the game itself didn't focus too much on that. As much that was mostly gameplay elements. You know, the focus was what made that game great was mostly the story and the character dynamics. Yeah, and the gameplay was great too. But for this show, I do think that the zombie fighting, that's always going to have to be secondary to the character dynamics. And we did see some, you know, glimpses of what Joel and Ellie are going to be in for, and it's going to get pretty messy very soon. So I'm very, very much excited about the future of the show. I really am looking forward to the next episode. So, I mean, if I had to score this first episode, I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, that 0.5 is just because it ended on a cliffhanger, and I would have liked to see a bit more dynamics with Joel and Ellie before they cut things out. But I love the show already. I'm still, you know, holding out hope that it lands better than some of the other video game adaptations. I know this one has started strong, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So that's my quick reaction to this. And if you like this form of response videos, if you like this form of you know, unedited or just me rambling about or reviewing a certain show or movie, do let me know in the comments. Again, this is, you know, I'm stuttering around. I'm not editing this audio a whole lot, so bear with me, and I hope you still enjoyed it. So yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for watching this. Thanks for joining me in my world. And until next time, take care and stay safe.